Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mic'd Avengers podcast, where we focus on martial arts and action cinema, but definitely delve into much more. My name is Jason from Martial Arts Theater 3000. I've been a lifelong fan of martial arts movies from Bruce Lee to the Venom Mob, Bruceploitation, and everything in between.
My name's Dragon, aka the Fanatical Dragon on YouTube. I also write the Blu-ray reviews for Eastern Heroes magazine right here in the UK. I'm about 4 decades into this love affair with East Asian cinema, specifically action cinema. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and the Shaw brothers got me into Hong Kong films, but unlike my buddy Jason, I've seen a whole bunch of Japanese, Indonesian and South Korean action flicks too. So over the coming episodes, every so often, we're going to force feed him something he has not seen.
And I'm Shaun, also known as Foo for Thought. It all started for me at the tender age of 14, where I discovered Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. From there, I kind of delved into old school Kung Fu, and that has been my passion for 30 plus years now. I also started delving into all realms of Asian cinema, and I'm very happy to say that these days I have a pretty strong passion for kind of dark Korean thrillers. If you like what you hear and you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a like, share and subscribe. And please enjoy this episode of the Mic'd Avengers.
Greetings and welcome, dear all, once more to the Mic'd Avengers podcast. Today, dear listeners, you have a choice. You can choose the ball and die like your mother, or you can choose the sword and join us as we dive into 1980s Shogun Assassin, and by extension, 1972's Baby Cart, or Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance, and Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart at the River Styx.
It's a mouthful. They're mouthfuls, they really are.
I'm going to trip over those a few times, but principally our way in is Shogun Assassin, because that was the one that we knew that Jason, you hadn't had a chance to see. I should say who I am and who I am joined with. As always, I'm the Fanatical Dragon, and joined by my dear brothers Jason, aka Martial Arts Theater 3000. Say hi, Jason.
How's it going, everyone?
And Shaun from Food for Thought. Say hi, Shaun.
Hello, all.
Delighted to be here with you too. I'm delighted to be checking out this movie. Delighted to be talking about a Japanese movie for the first time.
Yeah, this is our first Japanese movie, and admittedly, I am a fledgling investor in Japanese cinema. In that, by that I mean my finances. I've slowly been picking up more Japanese releases as they've been getting released by like companies like Radiance and titles from them and other places like is it Third Window? Is that what they're called? So I picked up some from Third Window. So yeah, I'm kind of not new to Japanese cinema. I'm certainly not new to Shogun Assassin, but kind of the world of Japanese cinema, meaning like how their cinema works, the intricacies of the behind the scenes stuff, the actors, the directors, so on and so forth. I don't know any of that shit. I am completely in the dark. So this is very exciting for me.
And Jason, your first time watch, what was it?
Oh, for this movie?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is my second Japanese movie I've ever seen. Crazily.
That's a wild statement. I must say that's crazy. But like the fact that you've done that is quite a feat.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, what it was is that I'd seen Street Fighter, and I love that. I don't know why that doesn't always feel like a Japanese movie to me. I mean, of course it is, but I don't sit there thinking, oh, this is so different, and but what it was is that I didn't have access to it growing up. Maybe Shogun Assassin was a VHS I saw, but I just, and like stuff, I never saw Seven Samurai on a VHS and everything, and we'll get into it, but what it was is that teams thing. I was kind of like, this was my team watching Chinese films, and I was beat into my head like with Fist of Fury and everything. It just was, I was sticking with my team. I'd see it on the other side and be a little jealous of the weapons I would think would look cooler, and
I almost felt like me going into Japanese cinema was like betrayal a little bit to like Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest. I was like, what am I doing? I shouldn't be going to them over. Like, I'm not trying to make this a race thing by all means, but I'm just trying to say like, it just seemed like such an alien type of cinema for me that I always felt like, oh no, I was betraying Lao Ga Leung if I went over there.
Oh boys, very different for me. I saw Kurosawa movies before I saw Shaw Brothers.
Wow.
My dad showed me Seven Samurai, like I think not long after I'd first seen like I saw the James Bond movie You Only Live Twice, and that was my first time seeing like a glimpse of Japan and ninjas and all that sort of stuff when I was super young. And then around about the same time as I saw Enter the Dragon, I saw Seven Samurai, and then then Yojimbe and Sanjuro not long after that. So it was always Kurosawa first, because my dad was like, as much as he loved Sean Connery and Clint Eastwood, my dad was a huge Toshiro Mifune fan, cool. And so like he would go back anytime one of his movies were on, we were watching it.
That's interesting, because I thought, like, you had said that Bruceploitation wasn't on your VHS shelves and all that.
Yeah.
And I thought there was always, like, Japanese cinema was tough to find. Like, did your dad have, I mean, it wasn't reel to reel. Did he just had VHS tapes of them?
They were on TV a lot. Like Sunday afternoons, they used to show Kurosawa movies. And so I think I was more familiar with those movies than Hong Kong cinema for the first little while, until I kind of fell way down that rabbit hole. So it'd always been a very easy place for me to go back to, and I've seen kind of countless more over the years. But that's a million miles away from Shogun Assassin, like what Kurosawa was doing, and kind of what happened in the 1970s in Japanese cinema is something that we will definitely get into. So before we dive too deep, let's see what the internet is telling us that the movie is all about.
We got some juicy ones. We got any good ones and bad ones.
They're pretty. They're not bad. I think we'll get into the fact that it's confusing looking at the description for Shogun Assassin versus looking at the description for the Lone Wolf and Cub movies that it pulls from. Yes. The stories are very different. But IMDb for Shogun Assassin says, when the wife of the Shogun's decapitator is murdered and he's ordered to commit suicide by the paranoid Shogun, he and his 4-year-old son escape and become assassins for hire, embarking on a journey of blood and violent death, which is not bad.
Right, that's probably our most good. That's probably our most on the nose one I think you've ever read
so far. And Google does not too bad, though it says medieval samurai known as Lone Wolf wanders the countryside with his young son to seek revenge against those who murdered his wife. Medieval and samurai aren't two things that would normally go hand in hand.
Not really.
Well, I'm trying to think, since there's guns, I think gunpowder came around like 1500. Like, I don't know, maybe it is medieval times, but yeah, you wouldn't hear that as like,
it'd be like, you'd say like feudal Japan or something like that, I guess.
Very much. Yeah. I think we're several hundred years after the sort of medieval
That's what I assumed. Yeah, that guy had those guns at the end. That was like...
Completely. Yeah. But yes, no, for anybody who doesn't know, and I'm assuming that everybody will if you're watching this, Shogun Assassin was the American released, essentially the recutting of the first sort of 12 minutes or so of the very first Lone Wolf and Cub movie, and then the bulk of Shogun Assassin comes from the second Lone Wolf and Cub movie, Baby Cart at the River Styx. I think it was only about 12 minutes from the first movie, re-edited together, given one of the greatest voiceovers in cinematic history. The decision to have the voiceover coming from Daigoro, the young boy, rather than from his father, is a genius, a stroke of absolute genius. And an amazingly recorded voiceover, and we'll get into who did the voiceover and why in due course. But yeah, they changed the storyline pretty extensively. It doesn't make an enormous amount of sense if you watch them very close together, as I think we all have for doing this. And the storyline a lot more satisfying if you go back to the original movies. But it's a rare case where I almost enjoy the English dub. Not as much, but I enjoyed the essence of it as much as I do the original Japanese films, just in a different way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's the Shogun Assassin is, while the plot itself is kind of basically the same or roughly the same to the originals, River Styx and Sword of Vengeance, Shogun Assassin is very much, I think, an exploitation flick in that it trims out all the quote-unquote good stuff, like the plot, the important stuff, and the kind of cultural. I feel like it lacks. Shogun Assassin lacks like a cultural relevance. Like it doesn't say a lot about the time. It just basically says kind of exactly what the IMDb and Google summary said, or plot synopsis. Just says, hey, there's a guy, he wants revenge, he's killing people. That's it. That's what Shogun Assassin is. But if you go back and watch the originals, there's so much more to them. There's so much more meat on the bones. There's so much more, dare I say, like thematically and kind of metaphorically, there's a lot more going on about his journey, and he's on the road to road to hell, and it's just a very conceptually the original films are much more interesting and deep, but there's something so beautiful about Shogun Assassin, whether it is just the voiceover or whether it's the condensed films just working so well together. I don't know, but I can easily even after watching them so close to each other, all three, I can easily go, oh, I could watch Shogun Assassin any day. I could watch Lone Wolf and Cub any day, but I could easily watch them, like, maybe not back to back, but days apart, and be perfectly happy and not see them as totally the same film. You know, one feels very American, very exploitational. The other feels very Japanese and very kind of classic Japanese cinema. And I don't know, to me, that's just like kind of special that they took these two films and kind of spliced them into this perfect nugget of what was the release date or release year of Shogun Assassin?
1980.
80. Just a perfect, early 80s or 1980 exploitation film. And it's just clever. It's smart. It was smart filmmaking. And yeah, that voiceover does. I mean, I remember I first heard that voiceover on Jizz's album from the Wu-Tang.
Liquid Swords.
Yeah, Liquid Swords. And I heard that voiceover and I was like, what the hell is this? And then eventually I found the film.
That's that clip that you kind of sent us as a preemptive.
Sort of. That wasn't from. I sent you one that wasn't from Jizza because it was also used in Agent Orange. Did a sort of another track that
by Cage.
Used,
it's by Cage, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, Agent Orange is the name of the track, isn't it? Mm-hmm. By Cage, and he'd also used the people said his brain was infected by devils line.
Okay, that's it.
Which is a great little slice. But yeah, that voiceover is unreal, and I think a perfect alignment of weird happenstance to make that happen. Because for anyone who's seen the VHS of Shogun Assassin, there's a beautiful poster that was created for that release by an artist called Jim Evans. And Jim Evans very friendly with the producer who ultimately brought the project into life. He was actually the one who suggested to the producer, you should check out getting these movies, because the producer was fluent in Japanese, so they would go together to a cinema that was showing Japanese films in the States, and showed him the first movie, and he was like, yeah, this is something we definitely have to get. But it was Jim Evans's son, the poster artist's son,
right.
Gibran Evans, who was 7 years old at the time, who was basically roped in to do the voiceover and had no real idea of what he was particularly doing at the time. He was just reading the words that they gave him. They didn't show him any footage, so he wasn't reading it to picture for obvious reasons. Said he did see the movie about a year or two after recording the voiceover and found the violence very comic booky, so he didn't freak him out too much when he was a kid. But yeah, he's had a weird journey and never acted again, never did any film work again, though did follow his dad's footsteps into graphic design and poster work, and ended up doing all the poster design and the photography and the artwork for Beastie Boys' Ill Communication album.
Oh, really?
Which is a nice little bit of trivia. So he definitely kind of stayed close to his father in terms of the type of work that he did. But that voiceover is just absolutely incredible and kind of works so well. Yeah, I think it's my wife's favorite version of the movie. She prefers Shogun Assassin over the original versions.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people
when
do.
you kind of we're talking, I'm not sure if we're going to go around and give our takes, but I have a lot to add to what you were saying there, Sean. I'm not sure if we're going to give like our overall
we should.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want to go ahead? Do you want to kick it off?
Please do.
Well, sure. Were you done with the synopsises though?
Yeah, all done.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I just got the two.
Yeah, so for me, watching it, I asked Dragon, where should I start? Should I watch Shogun Assassin and then watch, the two? And he said, yeah, that's how I started. That's how I did it. So I said, okay. So watching it, there was something odd. I had trouble getting out the gates, and the vibe I got was, whenever like Clan of the White Lotus and those initial cool releases were coming out by 88, but on the English dub, they added too much like I don't know if it's still called DNR. I think it is on the audio, right? Still DNR when they try to get rid of all the artifacts and make it, but it makes it really muted. Like when I watch Clan of the White Lotus, I can't even hear like I normally hear it on the VHS. It sounds like the voices.
Okay.
You've heard that with the voice. It's like I can hear it, but what is he saying? It's
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
So I thought he was saying the first line was in hospital. I thought that's the first thing he said, and I'm like, it's like went to put on subtitles, and because it was an extra, there was nothing, and it's like kept rewinding, like in hospital. I can't. What does that mean? And then I'll say the next day I looked it up and it was when I was little, but I don't know why I heard it is in hospital. And I was like, was he laid up for a little bit, or something, So I had a lot of moments I had to keep rewinding on the English dub because, and then I actually watched everything 4 times. Okay, I watched the 3 and then I went and found a Shogun Assassin online that had the subtitles, which is all I really needed to get, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the women's voices, it was hard to hear, especially the Supreme Ninja. I couldn't tell what she was saying at times, And then, so I absolutely loved it. we talk about I bring up grindhouse theaters a lot. I could tell this was designed for that audience. It was that period, and it was saying ninja so much that I was like, is it really saying it that much? Because it was just like ninja, ninja, ninja,
Yeah.
and this is before Enter the Ninja. So this is almost like the real kickoff craze of like the ninja craze, at least for America. Possibly,
Yeah.
And so I loved it. The plot seemed kind of odd. It kind of was like, I actually have like a final kind of consensus on all of it, and maybe I'll just say it out the gate. Basically, I consider this a comic book, and I consider the other two the book. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, good comparison. Nice.
Yeah, because like people, Lord of the Rings, there's that meme and joke like the people that have read the book, don't worry, they're going to tell you, on Lord of the Rings, and because people that love the movie, this is kind of. And I was going to say, Shaun, like when you said the plots are similar, I feel these movies are very different. I feel the plot is very different. And like very, very different, because the difference is that first off, it took me a second to catch it. They altered who was the Shogun. In the other two, the Shogun's like this far distant, like Inspector Gadget guy you never see. Or sorry, Dr. Claw on Inspector Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. That's my Dr. Claw impersonation.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so so they brought Shogun to the forefront. I will say, I don't think that guy really. I don't know. He didn't strike me as a Shogun overall. He was scary and super weird, but I couldn't picture that guy like fighting well, which they don't necessarily say the Shogun did. He was just like the supreme leader. But I just felt I could tell there wasn't enough meat on the bone for a theater. If you were going to show people a movie just to blow their heads, you would put on Shogun Assassin, unless it was more cinephiles that like a Kubrickian feeling where it's slowed down and you're going to look at all the beauty. This is like, I can't believe how fast it moves. And the narration, I loved it. It was great. I couldn't believe, those head choppings. I have to say, Chang-Chi might have lost his like reigning supreme of, well, first off, they definitely went to the same blood factory. This is like Shaw. I could tell the blood's similar to my Shaw
classic
brothers.
Stuff.
This kind of came first, right? And I think it's really, there's loads of, we'll get into as we get deeper into the movie. There's a huge amount of stuff taken from this movie for Shaw Brothers. The whole last act of Dirty Hole lifts heavily from these movies, kind of partly in how Lau Kar-leung has set up his stage to look kind of like the end of a couple of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, but just the setup of his kind of Gordon Liu being in the cart and being pushed through, all of that is taken from a straight love of these movies.
This one's had a lot of influence on a lot of like cinema over the years. Even as sorry to interrupt, but even as something as recent as The Mandalorian. The essence is still there. It's a father figure, quote unquote father figure, with his baby, essentially child, protecting them and going about missions, I suppose you'd call them. And even you can even look at something like The Last of Us. Again, a grown man with a child, and the missions, the violence. I don't know. I think, and as far as I know, I don't know, to be honest. This feels like kind of the first big one to kind of cement that idea of a father who's deadly, let's say, and then he's also the ultimate protector over his child as well. I don't know. I love that kind of thematic thing has just gone all the way through cinema. There's so many examples of it.
Oh, tons, almost to the point where it's become a trope or a genre of its own.
Exactly,
that they'll just call it like the Lone Wolf and Cub trope, a Lone Wolf and Cub genre. But I'm assuming, Jason, this is also your first time encountering the main actor. So the guy playing Ogami Ito, Tomosaboru Wakayama. Is this the first one of his movies that you've seen?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'll kind of like wrap up how the three, but here's the thing on him. He came off completely different in the other two than he does in this one. This one, he gets on that road to hell, and his look, it's quicker. He goes, because the madness comes in his face and his hair. He's getting like more overtaken by this, whatever this is exactly, the possession, not possession supernatural, but his like internal like want, to like, and
I think there's a supernatural element to this film, by the way, to a degree.
Yes. There is, right. Oh, absolutely. Especially in the original two, they didn't have that like fire and water and him walking in the white path in Shogun Assassin, does it?
No.
Okay, because that's very metaphorical to all of it. It's kind of like a teaching. Yeah. And so what I'll say is, that guy, he in Shogun Assassin, he seems like a madman, and it's almost like a John Wick. There's a very short, you mess with him thing, and we're going to see what happens when you do this. The other one's a slow burn. There's like, you see him, how noble he is. He has so many qualities that you're on his side a lot more, and you understand where he's coming from. I love the differences. That's why I'm just curious why those guys altered quite so much on it. Like I get how you want to see the Shogun. And I guess maybe it's not the nature of the director. It's kind of just chopping so much out to put so much action in. The guy, and they really they took out all that plot and everything. So it's just guys attacking him versus.
I mean, let's be honest. They dumbed it down.
Yeah.
Really, that's what they did for Western audiences. They just said, hey, all this Shogun clan nonsense, let's just wipe all that out. Let's just throw this, one bad guy in, and this guy just wants revenge. Very, it's dumbed down. As they do still now with films.
Yeah, so what I'll say is Shogun Assassin is amazing. That is the one you show the audience and blow their mind. They walk, it could convert a lot of people who want to see more. It'll cringe a lot of people who aren't used to this type of, level of violence. The other two, and I will say the first 20 minutes of the first one was such a shift. It was like suddenly I'm watching a Stanley Kubrick movie where I'm looking at all this space and cinematography, and it's beautiful, but I felt my mind wandering slightly because that's what was not the speed I was expecting. It was and then very slow. And I love slow movies, but it couldn't be more different. That guy is amazing. He's so great. And the funny thing is all these tropes, why it's beautiful is as you get older and you see all these movies, there's a negative comment you can make. Well, I've seen this before, But if you're watching something for the first time and it's before all the other stuff, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. It's like, everything's coming after. So it's like, oh man, how this is so influential. I could see how, Bruce Lee, he chose that Japanese cinematographer for Way of the Dragon, who may have worked on Fist of Fury. I can't remember which ones he was on. But in Chang-Chi, it's like everything's slowly making sense, And the reason this is a semi-intervention is because on the other ones, even since I've seen The Raid, I'm not dying to see Scott Adkins movies, and I do want to see The Raid too. I'm not fully converted to the want of it all quite yet. I don't know. This, honestly, I can't wait to watch the next 4. I'm chomping at the bit because it's still in the wheelhouse. It's not that, and that's what it is. And what I thought was, maybe this isn't always nostalgia. I really prefer the aesthetic of this, the speed, because I even dig the late 60s Shaw stuff where it's really slowed down and the action's even clunkier than this by far, It's, man, I was so impressed. That guy's awesome. I could see the differences. It's more wuxia. It reminds me of the wuxia Chinese, because when this guy drops his sword, though, suddenly, even how he held his fists, I was like, could this guy really, do anything? It's like he relies on luck and, his spirit, but it's like he got to get back to that sword, which is not what you see in the Shaw Brothers versions of the sword. Those guys are ready to just, bust out cool shapes and flip off a wall. This guy,
in real life, he certainly could. He was, I think, a fourth dan in judo. And there was a bunch of other kind of martial arts that he'd learned as well. In somewhere, the exact figure's hard to say to lock down, but he's in somewhere between 250 and 300 movies.
Oh, I saw that filmography. I couldn't even.
That's insane. That's Ku Feng levels.
Yeah, completely.
That's crazy stuff.
So versatile, and he is the elder brother of Shintaro Katsu, who was also the producer on this movie. Shintaro Katsu was Zatoichi in the 26 long series of Zatoichi movies, and just as Zatoichi did, this also had a spin-off TV series which the main actor didn't kind of port over to do, so someone else took up the mantle for the TV role, and when the TV series started, that was the point when he stepped away. Otherwise, I think this would have kept on running for many more movies, because the original source is, Jason, you mentioned comic versus book. The whole story itself is based on a graphic novel. It's based on a manga by Koichi, I always struggle with his pronunciation, Kazuo Koike, who also wrote Lady Snowblood, which is also turned into live action movies. And Lady Snowblood, anyone who's seen the end of Kill Bill Volume 1 that's essentially you getting a glimpse into the world of Lady Snowblood, because he uses one of the bits of music from that movie sung by the lead actress, and the staging of that whole fight in the snow is straight out of Lady Snowblood. So his work's kind of been adapted. I think he also wrote Crying Freeman as well, which has been adapted into a live action with Mark Dacascos. But an incredible writer and really heavily involved in the production of the film. So he wrote the screenplay. So it's a kind of very accurate translation of his work from one medium to the other. The comic book had only been running for less than a year when Tomosaboru Wakayama approached him. I've heard two different stories. I've heard one saying that he turned up at his house late one night. I've heard another one saying that he turned up at his office. I'm inclined to believe the house story more because I like it more. But just basically turned up and said, you have to cast me as this part. And if you read the comic book, he looks nothing like Tomosaboru Wakayama in the comic book. He's not a larger gentleman, should we say. He's not a portly lad. But so I think the writer was understandably a little bit skeptical, and Tomosaboru said, "What, you think I'm too fat to be able to do this?" And
this is a great bit. Yeah,
took him outside.
I read this story. This is fantastic stuff.
Took him outside. He brought a sword with him, incidentally. So took him outside into the garden, and then proceeded to form like a perfect backward somersault.
Yeah,
and then went straight into doing a bunch of moves with the sword on the spot, and was like
a backwards flip.
Yeah. Because he was incredibly acrobatic, like sort of Sammo Hung syndrome a little bit with him. Like he was very, very good. So because hard to find a stunt double for somebody of his size. So anytime you see him doing stuff in the movie, it is him doing stuff in the movie. Yeah. So they're using trampolines and stuff a lot, but he was doing all the flips and the spins and the turns, and he was such a versatile actor. And kind of, I hope that you'll both develop the same sort of love and affection that I have for him through us doing this episode, because he's far and away one of my favorite Japanese actors. I think the way that my dad loved Toshiro Mifune, I kind of feel the same way about Tomosaboru Wakayama. Yeah, because he could do everything. Sometimes he does comedy roles and he's really funny, almost like a Laurel and Hardy vibe to some of it. He can do slapstick comedy really well. He can be a snarling villain sometimes, and he was the villain in the first two Shinobi no Mono movies, which there's another great link to as well. The guy who's playing in Shogun Assassin, who they're calling the Shogun, he's really not. He's Yagu Retsudo. He's kind of basically the head of the ninja clan in the original movies. The guy with the crazy white hair, right? That is an actor called
or
yeah. That's an actor called Yonosuke Ito, and he was also in Shinobi no Mono. And Shaun, have you seen Shinobi no Mono? Have you seen the first one?
Is that the one in the set?
Yeah.
The one behind you. The audience obviously can't see this, but yes, I've seen the first film only. I haven't actually got through the rest of them yet, but I've just bought volume 2.
That's interesting, because I know you didn't love it though, Shaun. You said when
the first one, I admit I watched the first one, and what I did, I admit this is purely my mistake, is I was like, oh, this is going to be a ninja movie, and yes, it's going to be a kind of very old school ninja movie, but I'm going to sit through it, I'm going to enjoy it. There's a lot more to it. It's like political intrigue and a lot going on, and I wasn't fully attuned to it that day, and maybe I was distracted by a few things, and if you asked me what it was about, I probably couldn't tell you. So have I seen the film? Yes. Did I not like it that much? But did I understand it? No, because I wasn't paying attention, which I do a lot, by the way. I tend to do that.
Go back to it, or hopefully at some point we'll get to it on the pod.
Yes, but I'd love to.
There's our main character in Shinobi no Mono is part of one ninja clan, and that ninja clan's constantly battling against another ninja clan. And you find out, there's a slight spoiler here, Jason, I'm sorry, but you find out about 2/3 through the movie that the head of one ninja clan is the same dude who's also the head of the other ninja clan. He's just basically in a disguise, and he's pitting one group against the other group and running back and forth. It's like the alternate ninja move. That actor in Shinobi no Mono is the guy in Shogun Assassin and Lone Wolf and Cub, the guy who's playing the head of the ninja clan here.
Retsudo.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Yonosuke Ito is also an incredible actor, really wily and very tricksy, and a very ocular performance in Lone Wolf and Cub. It's all in his mad, crazy eyes that he's got going on.
Oh my god!
So he's absolutely fantastic. But I think as the series evolves on, and Jason, you've got all this to look forward to, it gets more and more James Bondy in terms of the baby cart starts having more and more gadgets attached to it, and so it just gets more and more. There's already quite a few in the first ones, and some of that you miss in the Shogun Assassin cut, because you kind of miss out the whole sequence that takes place at the hot spring at the onsen, which is one of my favorite.
Crazy! It's crazy that's trimmed out. It's so good.
Yeah, well, Dragon, let me ask you that for how violent Shogun Assassin is. There's when I watch the other ones, there's always like a final move that I'd see. I was like, wait, why didn't they? That's even bloodier. There's some like final blows and I'm like, there's no way I missed that. So I was shocked that Shogun Assassin didn't leave in. I thought Shogun only wanted like the bloodlust, but
no,
they
it's
did
still pretty cut back. Yeah. There's still some stuff I think they thought was a bit too extreme.
I find fascinating because originally, just to explain a quick story. When I discovered this film, by the way, because I was into horror films, and in the UK there was a VHS horror label called Vipco. I don't know if you remember it, Dragon, but Vipco was basically releasing a whole bunch of horror films, and they were all absolutely butchered, cut to shreds, because they released all the Video Nasties films before they were released uncut. So you could get City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, Zombie, all Fulci's films, all classics, and they were all cut to shreds. Well, one film they released was a film called Shogun Assassin. And I saw the trailer for Shogun Assassin. Now, I'd already kind of semi-gotten into Kung Fu films at this point, and I saw a trailer for Shogun Assassin on, I think it was City of the Living Dead. I could be wrong, but it absolutely hit everything I wanted it to hit, because I was like, I'm a horror guy, I'm a Kung Fu guy. This looks like it sits somewhere in the middle. And then I found it, and I watched it, and of course, instantly I fell in love, and the rest is history.
Killer.
Although, interestingly, I didn't watch the Lone Wolf films until the Criterion set dropped. So I spent years without them. It took me, 20 years probably to get around to them, to watch them. So I took Shogun Assassin was kind of my sole kind of quote-unquote Lone Wolf film. I didn't watch any others. But I'm interested to see whether the Vipco version, the original that was released in the UK on VHS, is the same cuts to this version, and whether they just had one final version that was basically released to trim a bunch of the violence, and they just never kind of put the additional violence back in. Does that make sense? There is no quote unquote, I've said quote unquote about 1,000 times this episode. There is no uncut version of Shogun Assassin out there, as far as I know. A version with those additional blows at the end, the little, the bloody, violent blows.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there is one, right?
No,
the version on Criterion is the final version.
Yeah,
right. Interesting.
Well, that's why I want to ask you guys, because you mentioned that. How old were you when you watched that there on the VHS?
14.
That's surprising, because I thought you two were going to say, wasn't there like a ban on this like they did on Nunchucks? Wasn't this not in the UK? Like,
it was pretty hard to get hold of.
Part of the Video Nasties list for a long time.
Explain that to me again. Video Nasties is all the ones that you guys had to. So you're saying Vipco's like an underground, like tape trade type thing? It
was funny. No, they weren't underground. They were a legitimate label like Eureka, 88 Films, anyone else. And they released horror films. But the thing was, because these films were on the Video Nasties list, so in the UK, it was illegal to release them uncut. Then Vipco just took the cut versions and released those. But they would say stupid stuff like, this one's banned in 32 countries. But it was the cut version, so you weren't seeing anything that made it banned. Okay. So it was a very kind of, I'm not saying it was a shady label, but their marketing was kind of weird. And then, I think later on, where the films got taken off the Video Nasties release and list, and then finally everyone was just like, oh, they can be released now. Vipco then started releasing them uncut for a while, because I remember they released Zombie, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters, uncut. But then I think they soon went under, or I think they may have even had a DVD label as well for a short time.
Well,
I don't remember, because I definitely remember Shogun Assassin coming out on DVD, but I can't remember who put it out.
Yeah, they had the classic poster, but it was with like a blue frame around it on the front. I did have it. I actually got rid of it not that long ago, because I got rid of all my VHS. But I actually had a copy of Shogun Assassin.
Did you sell them, or?
I basically, long story short, I sold some, and I actually gave some to basically a secondhand store.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I shouldn't have. It was one of the worst ideas I've ever done, but so be it. The wife said that it's, it's either Blu-rays or VHS, you choose. And I don't watch VHS. I don't have a VCR. So I'm just like, they just sit and look pretty. So time to get rid of them.
When you got to Criterion, like how many minutes would you say was not on the Vipco? Like how much was added to not the originals, I'm talking the Shogun Assassin.
See, that's the bit that I'm confused with. I would love to know if I could get hold of a copy of the Vipco version, I would watch it now. But I have a feeling, I don't know, it must have been cut because it was on the Video Nasty, or did Vipco release it uncut? I don't know. That's what I'm interested in.
Maybe they were lying.
they also got taken off that list, or
Yes.
that list ceased to be a thing. It was only really kind of like there was one or two politicians that kind of made a big stink about
Right.
it, and
Yes.
they kind of ended up targeting a bunch of movies. But I don't think I can't remember exactly, but I don't remember it lasting for that long. So I
Yes.
think the BBFC ended up just sort of relaxing a little bit, and because I mean, there's that whole time is really confused. Like loads of people think Clockwork Orange was on that list, and it never was.
No.
That was like Kubrick had specifically asked them not to release it in the UK because he was getting death threats and stuff, and Warner Brothers unbelievably agreed and pulled it out from sales. It wasn't allowed to be sold or screened in the UK for a long time, and that stayed in place until Kubrick died. Then within like 2 weeks of him dying, it was like straight into cinema
Of course
screens.
it did. Yeah.
I never got that, by the way. Like, I know there's the Singing in the Rain scene, which is bad, you know, with
it was just because people were dressing up as droogs and going out and beating the shit out of
now
people.
I do remember that. But I think because I heard everything you said there about you guys didn't get it to whatever 2000 or however long. By the time I saw it, I was expecting like this with heads, but it was way tame. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's not too extreme. I mean, it's questionable in a few scenes, but it's a Clockwork Orange compared to whatever title you want to pick, like Cannibal Holocaust or something. It's nothing, right? Nothing at all.
I mean, it's below nunchucks, I'd say, even. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's
Nunchucks is the weirdest band in the world. I get it, people were making their own and hitting people over the head with them, which is not great, but still, it's just a weird thing to ban. Nunchucks.
Yeah, well, the BBFC have to find something to do, and at the moment, short of their main job really is to tarnish the artwork of every single new release that comes out in this country with as many of their fucking logo stickers as possible.
Yeah,
it's such a pointless organization.
I think
because
we have so many guns over here, you guys are way more making stuff and knives, so I think we skip all that. You know what I mean? It's like in America.
America doesn't.
It's not. It's like it's kind of the equalizer, but I could see the influence. You know. Droogs running around with nunchucks and with this list not being there. I don't know, you know, like
we had no one dressing up as
time.
Ogami Ito, sadly.
No, sadly not. That would be a
you guys got to help me with these names. You draw both of you. Shaun, you said Dragon. You said the actor's name so smooth. I couldn't do it. Like I'm practicing under my breath.
Tomosaboru Wakayama.
Is he in oh god, I'm gonna get the name wrong now. It is him in Hanzo the Razor, right?
No, that's his brother.
It's not. That's his brother. God damn it! All right, which
it's
Hanzo films are crazy.
They're amazing, but between the two of them, I mean, I think those two are so. They're almost like if Jimmy Wang Yu had a slightly older, slightly chubbier brother, and they both had incredible kind of franchises running, right?
Yeah,
because they both made a bunch of different series. I mean, Zatoichi is the longest running one that made it up to 26 movies, and then came back for 27 years later, and then obviously was revisited by Beat Takeshi, did his own version in the early 2000s. But Shintaro Katsu formed his own film company, and it's his film company that made the Lone Wolf and Cub movies.
Okay.
At the same time as they were making the first Hanzo the Razor film.
Gotcha.
And the one director, the director of all the movies we're talking about here, Kenji Mizumi, also directed the first Hanzo the Razor film.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Also pretty heavily involved in the Zatoichi movie. So he's almost like, as far as Japanese action cinema goes, he's kind of a little bit the Chang-Chi in a way, where he's the one that was breaking the mold a little bit and changing things from the way they'd been before. And he was kind of the first one to start really doing insane amounts of spraying blood and decapitated limbs and all that sort of stuff. Was quite new to Japanese cinema at this point in the 70s. I mean, they'd had hundreds and hundreds of samurai movies and hundreds of sort of Chanbara and Jidadeki movies, which are all sort of the wuxia equivalent in a way. So all largely sword driven. Didn't really have that much of a tradition in hand-to-hand combat movies. There's not a score of like judo movies. Sonny Chiba sort of introduced I guess you could call karate flicks. So Sonny Chiba was always doing his own very weird thing that I absolutely love, but it's not really that authentic kind of straight traditional karate. It was kind of almost his weird Bruce Lee impression.
Definitely
through a crazy lens, right?
Yeah.
So that came a little bit later. So I think between those two brothers, though, they were responsible for an inordinate amount of incredible action movies. There's another series called the Wicked Priest that this actor, that the Lone Wolf and Cub actor did, which got up to 5 movies with a spin-off 6th movie that had one of the the kind of characters he goes up against in the earlier series of the movie. Got his own spin-off series, and they're really good fun too, about a sort of disgraced priest who can also fight. And he crops up a lot in basically working for almost everybody. He's in a lot of Kinji Fukasaku movies. He's quite often playing like Yakuza bosses or gang bosses. Ridley Scott cast him towards the end of his life in Black Rain with Michael Douglas.
I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah, and
wow,
he's got he says the speech that includes the name of the title. So he says the speech about it being like Black Rain.
I need to watch that again. I need to
definitely check it out.
Is there a 4K of that?
Not that I've seen, no, not yet.
Really?
There's a good Blu-ray of it with a pretty good commentary. But there's two really, really good Japanese actors, well, three really good Japanese actors, and that's a great movie. Actually, we should do Black Rain somewhere down the line. We'll get a chance to dive into.
I'm down.
Because it's a great movie.
You would probably know, Dragon. Is there a Japanese film, around the same era, or even comes a little bit later? Is there another Japanese film that matches the violence of Lone Wolf, or is it like the upper echelon for just extreme violence?
No, there's quite a lot more. They're just sometimes in slightly different ways. I mean, I think Buhachi Bushido, which just got a 4K release out of Mondo Macabra,
that I watched last week.
That's got similar levels of Planet Bloodlight and a lot more sex. It's
delightful, that film. It's, I mean, more sex than anyone can handle. It's the most topless women I've ever seen in a film, easily. There's one in every scene,
porn,
literally. Right? Yeah, it pretty much is. They are walking around everywhere. No one wears clothes in that film, but it's a delight. It's a great.
Incredible sequence at the beginning on the bridge. Which is very much in that same kind of ilk. And so like directors like Teruo Ishii was, I think, maybe slightly more sadistic in some of the stuff that he enjoyed celebrating. So he was very into like examining torture. So there was kind of gore and violence through a sort of prism of torture in his movies more than through a prism of combat. But the Shinobi no Mono movies never really kind of got up to the same level of violence in that regard, of that type of bloodletting. A little bit later on, some of the Sleepy Eyes of Death movies kind of did, but not quite to the same sort of extreme, but again, some of the same sort of crossover with the same directors. But I think it's certainly probably the most that these movies were dialed up to 11. So it can be quite frustrating if you're looking for other movies in the similar sort of vein.
I was thinking that. I've never come across one.
No, that's why I'm happy you asked that, Shaun, and how you answered that, because in my mind, I always felt like Chang-Chi is like the king of this stuff, with going all the way through the Venom, starting with One-Armed Swordsman and everything. I'm like, this guy's the king, and seeing this and then hearing you say hundreds of samurais movies leading up to this, I'm like, not thinking that Chang-Chi was like, just straight copying, but I guess I would say I feel a little better to know there aren't hundreds of at this level. Maybe like when Chang-Chi saw this, he started upping the ante even more. Who knows? I'm just curious, do you see it that way, that this was, or the Japanese movies usually the influencers of the, like Hong Kong movies, or were they always neck and neck in the 50s?
So.
Yes and no. I think as far as cinematography goes, 100%. So in terms of the actual production values, what we think of as being the Shaw's model of having all the actors living on site, that Shaw, Run Shaw, lifted directly from the Japanese system. That was kind of the Toei system. They would have like basically a big complex where all the day player actors were staying. The superstars weren't staying there, but they would have a regular stock of people. I think they called it the green room, where basically all of their kind of actors that were going to be background extras and stuff all stayed full time, and then you were working on multiple films at the same time. So it was that assembly line mentality of movie making was all borrowed from the Japanese system. And there was kind of like sort of 3 or 4 big studios in Japan. You had Toei, you had Dai, which was the ones responsible for the tail end of Dai, when Dai were just about to go bust, and then I think Shintaro Katsu took the franchise over to briefly to Toho. And
was Toei the one you had some issues with, Sonny Chiba? Okay, it's ringing a bell to me.
Toei I had issues with, and they do a lot of animation now as well, but they're just very heavily copyrighted, all their stuff. But I think it's kind of not a completely individual example, because there are definitely other movies that have some great swordplay in them, and there's definitely some that have some great gore. I think that the one constant's more the director. Kenji Mizumi was very interested in kind of showing you all of that on screen. So you kind of find it in his movies quite a lot. But
it's so brutal. It's like when the lady ninjas just disembody
Oh,
that
man.
ninja. They take
That's wild,
his
man.
ears, his fingers, his hands, his arms, his legs, the whole, and then they stab him at the end, like through the
Oh, my.
throat. It's so graphic and so over the top, and it's such a wonderfully made scene because in, what was it, 1972? In 1972, it would be very, very easy to make an ultra-violent scene where someone gets their arms and legs and ears chopped off. Very hammy, very obviously fake, very silly. This, they shoot it in such a way where you don't... One thing everyone should notice about Shogun Assassin, I'm sure everyone does, and the same with the Lone Wolf films, it's not always the slash of a sword you see. Sometimes it's just severed limbs dropping to the floor.
Yeah.
But it's cheap, easy, and works so well. You see him slash, you don't see any violence, and you just see an arm fall to the floor. And it's perfect. It's very cleverly made violence for the era. Because in order to be able to actually show someone actually hack someone's arm off, it would be impossible then. Like special effects didn't really exist to show that well. I mean, even in or early Shaw Brothers, I mean, some of the, limb choppings in that look a bit dodgy. But this just, I don't know. I think the violence here, while controversial, if you want to say that, or offensive to some, it's beautifully done. It's so cleverly done. And it's just, it's for someone like me who's a horror fan and kind of into that viscera, I like gore flicks. This just really, really like satiates something inside me watching it. I really enjoyed the brutality of this film combined with the kind of martial flair of is it Wakayama? Did I get that right? Or was that yes? I didn't even look at my notes. Yeah, I think he's just great.
Sean, I want to ask you, as a horror fan, we've talked about in the other episodes the pillars of horror. So you have Night of the Living Dead 69, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you have 74, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In that gap, this, I'm just wondering if the parallels in horror, I think this feels like it's outdoing what you would see in 72 in American horror. You know what I mean?
That's
maybe
very
in Italy,
interesting.
you definitely know more about Italian horror.
Yeah,
I don't know
maybe.
if that had started. 1980 is one feeling, but when you're knowing that it's 72, that is a very different feeling watching this.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
I'm wondering, are these movies that all came after, like, because people that went to film school back then, now, like, you can get your iPhone, you don't have to watch all these old films, you can just jump in, and you're not sure what your influences are. I imagine to get into the film industry back then, they were studying stuff, like how Mike Tyson would watch all those old fights. I could just see that they were well versed and they were probably getting these prints or something, because I'd be hard pressed to find. Do you think there's movies as violent in horror in 1972?
No, I genuinely don't. I think maybe in the early 70s, maybe some Italian giallo films that may have the odd like brutal whatever hand slice or stabbing or something like that. Maybe early Argento or something. What year was like Deep Red or something like that? I don't even know. Suspiria and things like that. Suspiria must have come a little later. I'm just getting my phone
Tail
out.
end of the decade, I think, the end of like 78, 79 or something.
Deep Red was 75.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's got some gore in it, and like I guess you have, I don't know if is it Tenebrae? I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I don't know whether that came before or after. That's got some serious violence in it, but honestly, no, I don't think so. Okay. I think as far as early 70s go, as far as early examples of violence go, I think for me and what I've seen, this is the peak. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Or for years after that, probably.
It's very faithful to the book. I mean, because of the way it was drawn, there's an awful lot of the way that I can't remember the name of the artist. The artist who did those books was Gozeki Kojima, and a lot of his panels are very like, he kind of shows impact because it's harder to do in a still image, right? So his way of showing the severity of the impact was to show this massive spray of blood coming out the side. So I think it was a fairly accurate translation of what the manga books were doing. And that artist actually was the one who ended up conceiving the script for Bahachi Bushido. So between those two guys, they've influenced a huge amount of the kind of more visceral nature of some of the kind of movies that we've been speaking about. Kind of all came from those two guys, and really interesting cats. Harder to kind of find interviews with the artist, but the writer has certainly done a bunch of interviews about the movie, and it's great hearing him kind of speak about the sort of stuff he was interested in at the time. And Yeah, just a wonderful time for Japanese cinema. I think the more that you dive into it, the more you start realizing it was the source for so much stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
Does the manga move at the speed, like meaning like the violence versus the story, like coming along? Is it more Shogun Assassin-y, or
no,
is it
it's
like...
more along with it's
Okay.
it's very like, in a way, it kind of follows the same sort of like formula that you would see TV shows adopting more often. It's kind of, I think, why it lends itself really well for a TV series, because it was him on this journey where he was traveling from situation to situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the Zatoichi movies work in a really similar way as well. So your central character is your only constant, but then he's constantly going into different situations and usually helping somebody that he comes into contact with in a Littlest Hobo, Incredible Hulk TV show type of way.
They're Adventure of the Week films, basically.
Yeah. And then moving on to the next encounter. And there was a sort of a through thread of him basically trying to get revenge for being set up and for his wife being killed, and kind of ultimately kind of trying to work his way back to the Shogun. But really the main villain was the guy who they turned into the Shogun in Shogun Assassin, the head of that other clan, really a head of the Yagyu clan. And the Yagyu clan themselves are really very frequently used because they do come from kind of Japanese history. So there's loads and loads of movies that examine different parts of that ninja clan. And Sonny Chiba was involved heavily a lot in some of those later on. But sometimes they were heroes, sometimes they were villains. And Japanese cinema, more than any other cinema in the world, I've found kind of really does that, where sometimes when they're examining a character, they're portrayed as the hero. Other times they're totally portrayed as the villain, and it's the same characters, the same group, right? It's just they'll examine things from every angle they possibly can do, in a way that's really fluid and really interesting. Even to the point where once you dive deeper into Shinobi no Mono, the main actor doesn't play the same character through all those movies.
Oh, great!
He plays the same character for the first three, and then he flips to being a member of the other clan. So he's basically becoming a villain of the guy from the first three, going on from that point.
Yeah,
and they would do those sort of things all the time.
Wait, do you mean that the actor? Are you saying the character goes there or the actor goes over?
Well, the actor plays like an entirely different character.
Okay, it's kind of like how on Brave Archer and His Mate they switched Fu Shang too. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that though. I love that.
Okay, so you're not talking about the nuance of the character. The actual actors are switching chairs.
And quite often they'll bring back the same actor to play a completely different part, like our hero from Shogun Assassin. So Wakayama is also in the Shinobi no Mono movies, and he crops up in the first two as one villain, but then comes back in like film 4, I think, playing a much more heroic, friendly character.
That's so interesting. That's like remaking Fight Club and switching the two leads. Edward Norton's he is spoiler everyone, he is Tyler Durden if you haven't seen the film. But yeah, flipping those would be crazy.
He even ended up, he didn't come back for the main TV series, but they did a spin-off TV movie, like a movie made for TV based on the same characters, and Wakayama came back to play the villainous Retsudo. So he gets a chance to play, made up with the white hair and the white beard and stuff. So he kind of comes back to play the villain.
Well, which actor is that though?
That's like, Wakayama, the main guy, the main Shogun
Assassin. The main guy
himself.
comes and plays the Retsudo.
Yeah.
Man,
and that one's not in the Criterion set, but I can hook you guys up with that. That was a made-for-TV movie, so it's nowhere near as gory, but it's still pretty entertaining, and it's good fun seeing him play the villain.
I bet.
I cannot wait to get in these next 4.
Oh, you're gonna enjoy them.
I mean, and I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions about this. So on the kills, I wanted to definitely get this in. My favorite 2 kills, I want to ask you guys like which one like really stuck out with you guys. The first one might not be obvious. I adore the one where he's getting, I guess it might be his first assassin, like they're talking about the deal, and those 2 guys come behind him and he just kills them. It is so smooth. It's not even a bloody one or anything. And then it's so odd that they keep just talking and he just killed his 2 guys, and he's just
it was meant to be a test. Like if he couldn't handle those guys, then he was
you weren't the man for the job. Right, exactly.
It's that one. And then another one I don't think is in Shogun Assassin. It's when the son, when they're taking out the in Shogun Assassin, I guess they call them like the Supreme Ninjas and the Ninjas, and the other one they call them the Sword Mistresses. Whenever the son so nonchalantly just hits that little secret weapon and kills the. Oh my God, I love that. I love that so much.
Good.
But I don't think that's even in Shogun Assassin. That kill. That
No, they clearly
Okay.
cut
No,
that
I
out.
think they
Though-
took quite
I
a
think
few
they
out.
used the one when they've got the blades coming out the wheels. They use
The
that.
foot
and
comes
he sends the cut off.
Well,
Yeah.
give me your guys, like, which sticks. And the third one would be, I think, maybe on your list, is that whenever, which is also so different. We're in Shogun Assassin, he's fighting the Shogun's son for the duel, and the other one is just one of the henchmen or something, But that beheading really sets the stage. I think it might even be better lit in Shogun Assassin, because when I watched in the original, it looked like darker or something.
Oh, interesting.
In Shogun Assassin, I saw it coming right out the,
Yeah, that's some
but
good
I
stuff.
feel like that set the tone for that movie, when that head came off. Because I thought it was going to be like a Yusaki Karada, like a big back and forth thing, and that's all it was. It was like, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to have like a favorite death in this film, because there's some of them.
Tell me some of your
so-
guys. Which stuck out with you?
I think two of mine, which have honestly stood the test of time for me, these have always been my favorite, they're my favorites for two very different reasons. One is just the ship massacre by the is it Monks of Death? Is that what they're called?
In Shogun Assassin,
yeah.
they're called.
Yes, yeah. They're just brutality to everyone, like the spiked glove in the face, and like you can see like the flecks of blood come out, and then when he does essentially the Wolverine claws in the guy's head, I love that stuff. I love when he pulls the guy out of the sand with his claws. They're great. But my favorite death, and I think this is kind of maybe a given to some people, is the neck slice and the famous whistle, from the neck, and then the blood splurts out. And I'm not even sure I'd call it a monologue. I guess it is a monologue, but that guy's little kind of spiel at the end before he dies, mwah, chef's kiss. I love that.
Dude, I laughed so hard. And we talk about the theaters, like that would destroy in a grindhouse theater. I'm talking laughing but it's weird. I was ready for it in the original. Because when he's going, it's just ridiculous. And
It's great.
you
Can't believe it.
But just like the movie is the original, it's more noble how he says it. What did he say? He said, I can't even remember what the word, he says something in the original, it was similar. He says, but it's more poetic and it's not as funny. And but that is I thought it was going to be completely different. I thought the American directors were like, let's make up this weird thing where he's talking about, I thought in the other one,
he says
it's,
I think the voiceover works really well just for the whole grindhouse aesthetic, his raspy voice and his, saying it's ridiculous for him to hear it from his own neck. For a grindhouse audience, it works really well, but I think the original works well.
That final shot in the, in the non-Shogun Assassin one, that's also not in Shogun Assassin, that final spray, or is it? It is.
I don't think so. If it is, it's fleeting.
Not the one where he rolls over and it splurts out.
Right, because
I can't remember.
Because as I rewatched the originals, there was always a finale that was like, man, there's no way I missed that.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite kill, Dragon?
Oh, so many. I like the technicality of the little mirror that he puts on Daigo's head.
It's a classic moment.
It's just like a really cool. I do enjoy the guys that come in with the baskets in their heads, and he slices through the first, and the second jumps over the top, and then takes it down with the pole from the cart.
Oh yeah,
They're probably my favorite ones. And I think the massacre, when he rapidly kills his way through everybody at the end of the scene at the hot spring.
Yeah,
because they're all really inventive, and I love when the guy fires bullets at me, he just lifts up the cart, and the whole bottom of the cart's bulletproof. It's just really cool. And then he gets to do one of his leaps over the top, like a trampoline leap, and he's so good in the air. Like for somebody who's that size, he shouldn't. It shouldn't work as well as it does, but he's so graceful.
Yeah, you brace for the stunt double, and he's definitely not there. I mean, you feel it's like. I do that with Kufang a lot because his acting's so good, and he often plays older looking men too. You know what I mean? And then he just busts right into it, like Magic Blade, and I have to say before I forget. Now, what also blew my mind, which probably didn't blow your guys' mind, I don't know what is the order of events when Big Trouble in Little China came out.
Talk about influence.
I thought this was some amazing, like, John Carpenter idea. This is straight homage, I mean, I'm talking claw, talking the weapons and everything. It's like, oh man. And I won't say it lowered that, but wow, I did not know that it was a straight port, as they'd say in video games.
Yeah, it's just it has influenced cinema more than people give it credit for. Or I guess some people don't even know of this film,
Yeah.
because it is, as much as it's kind of like it's definitely a cult film, obviously, but there's still plenty of people that don't know about it. But yeah, I think it's very influential. Absolutely. From the violence to the themes to even the gadgets. I mean, it borrows from Bond a little bit, or a lot, I should say. And Jason, I have to give you 2 words. It's not a spoiler, but 2 words. Skiing ninjas. That's all I've got for you, buddy. So make of that what you will, but it's fun.
I have a plot question, you guys. I want your opinion on this. There's something I didn't get with his character. He acts a certain way with everyone. There's a certain way that I could rely on. But what happened when he got to the hot springs that he gave his sword over so easily? I know on the bridge that he was like threatened, but once he crossed the bridge, it felt like this guy really wanted to get to the hot springs. He's kind of given up his mission. He wants to pray and relax or something, but it's strange how he let them all kind of like toy with him. He went into this other mode that he isn't in the rest of the movie. You know what I mean? And I couldn't quite figure out why he was so docile. And even when he could have grabbed the sword and taken them all out, he chose to do, make love, or however you'd say, with this prostitute and in front of everyone, which is...
I always took that as him kind of ultimately losing face for the sake of protecting
Absolutely.
her.
Forsaking his honor. It's his.
Well, I
his
think
samurai.
he doesn't have his honor anymore at this point because of the path he's chosen.
Because he's a Ronin, right? He's given up the life of a samurai, if you will. A shogun.
Bushido code, right?
Exactly, executioner. So samurais never give up their sword. You live by the sword. You die by the sword. You carry it with you. And the fact that he's giving it up, I think that implies like, oh, he's no longer living this life. Like he can make choices. And when he has sex with a prostitute, I think it's kind of like, well, a samurai would never do this, or a shogun's executioner would never do this, but he's lowering himself because he's like, well, I'm doomed. I'm on this path, so why should I act, with nobility, with honor, because I'm on this.
But why didn't he
path.
kill the guys? Like, why did he let? Like, it just was. I couldn't figure out why he was handing over the sword, and then all the moments. You saw in the end he could take them all out. He went into like this weird meditative state for all of that. He wasn't answering. He was letting the guy beat him with the like wooden or plastic sword, whatever that's called, And maybe there isn't like a straight answer, but did you ever have a theory on why he kind of went into that mode for that whole like 20 minutes, half hour,
Not so much. No, I also thought he's kind of basically biding his time because the main dude who ends up killing last wasn't really around too much when the other guys were messing with him. And so I think I always saw it as him kind of waiting until he could basically kind of get everyone together.
You mean the guy that discovered him got freaked out when he realized who he was? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know, about hard one to call exactly. It's hard to know exactly what was going through his head because he's an unusual cat.
Yes.
A lot of the choices that he makes. And I think he's sort of putting himself up available for hire, but also puts his kid up available for hire. And through the course of the series, the kid ends up getting hired arguably almost as much, if not slightly more than he does. And it's usually just to basically deal with some woman who's been massively traumatized about losing her own kid. And so the kid's sort of sent off dispatched to basically breastfeed from some random lady and then get given back. And so that happens quite a lot. So the kid is... kind of his own little entity, and the kid has a couple of little kind of wee arcs himself as you get through some of the other movies too, and that's a great little actor. He's really, really good, really charismatic.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's
fantastic. So good.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Oh no, I was agreeing he was amazing. I was going to just ask on a couple things on the prostitute. I felt she was, in movies like Pretty Woman and stuff later on, prostitutes, like they really added a lot of like character them. They had their own arcs, but for 72, she in that little bit of that little scene in that section, there was so much going on there. What she was saying, what she was feeling. It was like this dual, both of them, and
she's great.
That I think that's maybe why I said make love versus have sex, because something like is sparking between them in a way. It's and it's just so odd. These barbarian ruffians are all watching, and there is so much going on in that scene, like below the surface, what she's thinking, and this like. How it's not only how she feels about him, and that's the thing I also want to bring up later. His ability, he wins these women over.
He's a ladies' man.
Yes,
Like,
and
in a
the
way.
Supreme Ninja Woman, it's like I want to discuss how she is like he disarms her, and and I have to say I had like a crush on her when I first saw her. Man, she is beautiful. Not even how they frame her face, just something about, and she's like powerful, and she's.
And did the outfits make you look at Five Elements Ninjas in a slightly different way too?
Oh, yes, exactly. I knew when she flipped, I saw the butt in the air, and then she lands fully nude in the Five Element Ninjas. And then I got a little bit of Monty Python. She runs backwards.
Well, that was borrowed also for Duel to the Death. Do you remember that scene when they're fighting the Shaolin monk and runs backwards naked after that scene as well?
Yeah, it was a reverse of the guy going to the castle. He can never get there. I just kind of had that feeling a little bit, Like,
I'm with the kind of they're cutting the body apart as well. It could have easily turned into just about a scratch.
Yes.
Wait, is that?
I've had worse.
Is that 72 as well? I think Holy Grail might be 72.
72? Hold
Maybe,
on a minute.
because it can't be 78.
I would have thought it was later.
I think Holy Grail's later.
Okay. Because I know Monty
like
Python
76.
started in 69. I don't know how long they waited till they started the...
Well, it had quite a long time.
I was just off. It was 75.
75, okay.
Yeah.
But I was enamored with her. Even when she laughed, it's not like to say, oh, she's just hot. Like she owned the scenes. She, like the way they even framed her face. She just looked so beautiful through it. And I loved the acting and how the two of them, like you said, a ladies' man, he could win these women over in this strange way. I want to ask you guys, what do you guys notice sometimes these women had like these mouth guard looking things on? Like that woman.
Black teeth.
What is that? What is that?
That was like a sort of sign of kind of like women of nobility or women of good standing. They would paint their teeth black.
But what didn't make sense is the Supreme Ninja Woman, right? So they're going through, you see her laughing or you see her teeth a million times. So then they go underwater and escape the burning boat. When they get into that room, suddenly she had the black teeth on in there.
Maybe a mistake there.
Okay. Well, I was like, did she have like a night retainer on the boat or something? I was like, who knows why she suddenly had that. It made me wonder if it was for a second a different person or something.
Oh, maybe she was meant to have it the whole time and they just...
Yeah. That might be a continuity typo because you see that a lot in Japanese cinema because particularly at that time a lot of adaptations choose to leave it out because it can kind of look to modern viewers it just looks like they've got really fucked up teeth.
Yeah, reminds me of a hip hop grill like in rap videos and stuff.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing about this film, you talk about like the ninja lady or the Supreme Ninja, and then we mentioned the crazy Shogun Assassin making the Shogun, and of course Ogami Ito himself. This film is inherently, I think the word that just springs to mind is just cool. Just everyone in this film is cool as hell. And yes, it's sexy at times, it's smart, it's cool as hell. I don't know, it just oozes do you know what? I'm gonna speak like the kids for a second. I'm gonna talk like the kids and say Ogami Ito, he has big dick energy in this film. You know what I mean? He walks around and just people like are magnetized to him, and he has this like, I'm not saying because of his size, like a gravitational pull where people just come to him, whether it's bad or good people. And I just think there's an inherent coolness about this film.
He and his brother both had it somehow. They were very unlikely candidates for it, but they both had it. And I think you got to think at the same exact time this was being made, they're making the first Hands of the Razor. And Hands of the Razor has even more big dick energy than
Hands of the Razor. It gives a new meaning to the term beating off. Let's just put it that way. Hands of the Razor. I
have no idea what that means.
That's a character his brother played that was, I think, kind of, again, directed by the same director at the same time. And he plays basically a very anti-establishment constable who's constantly going up against the hierarchy above them, who are all corrupt. All government in Hanzo movies are kind of painted as being inherently corrupt and self-serving, and he's kind of more of a man of the people, but his only way of interrogating people, he'll always get information usually from women, and his way of doing it is by essentially low-level sexually assaulting them, and then halfway through the act he'll stop and by that point they're already so into what he's doing that they'll be like, no, please don't stop, and then they'll share all the information that he's trying to find out. And he's presented as having an enormously large cock in it, which he hits with an enormous wooden stick.
Wait, this is getting bizarre. Oh my lord! Wait, what?
And drives into bags of rice. So
I thought Shaun meant a metaphor, like it's like you know what I mean? Like
no, Hanzo beats his penis with a bat, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's the opening scene or credits or something.
This is making these movies sound. This is making these seem really. tame.
Hanzo the Razor's wild. I mean, he does some
movies, but really good fun. And like even to the point where they show you the stone that he's using, and it's got the shape of it, where he's been like hammering it into over such a long period of time.
Sounds like people look for phallic symbols. This sounds like this is like obviously, but this seems very penis centered.
It's like the stone. It's like, in some kung fu movies when you see the floor in Shaolin and it's got dips in it. The stone's like that, but from his knob.
My God.
It's great. It's great.
Is it a comedy, though?
No, not really.
Because that's why, the reason I say that's the other thing of this movie. It strikes me, outside of Shogun Assassin and, a theater laughing with that last thing, it is dead serious. They're not, because, even Bruceploitation, there's a wink and they have to know. It's a lot of that. This is like, and I think it's better for it. It is so dead serious. And that's why I love it. I love movies I love No Country for Old Men. I love how, that guy's hair might be a little funny and he looks weird and there are some comical moments, but when you sell it in that complete, like, you know what I mean? This isn't tongue in cheek. This is like, I guess maybe because they also have to, the movie kind of has to adhere to that Bushido code.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And when I would talk about wuxia, how sometimes it's like, you don't see that in kung fu movies as much. Sometimes you will. It'll be like, oh, you're sick today, so we'll fight another day or something, I started seeing this code in wuxia, and this has it tenfold. That like when they take his kid, they all know that that's dirty, and it's like a rule book almost, And it's strange how certain things are not in that thing. It's like what you can do is bizarre too, Another thing is when I read some reviews, they talked about how Shogun Assassin got rid of like the rape scenes. I would have assumed Shogun Assassin would have left all these bits in, but it seems like that wasn't necessarily the goal. In the rape scenes, they were like cringeworthy. They were they showed a lot of it. It wasn't just like a short scene, especially with those barbarians and the girl passes away. I mean, that was crazy, And I guess what that did for me was when I hear 1972, I'm expecting, I don't know, this had the oomph of like a modern, like Rob Zombie movie. How that, Rob Zombie, sometimes it takes it too far. I believe there's a moment where it's just like it loses its effect, especially for like when I love Halloween, but the Halloween unrated, it just had these scenes. It's kind of like the scenes that they lost in I Saw the Devil. And it's like this, there's some things you could say went too far, but what I'm saying though is I am shocked that a movie in 1972, I didn't have to make any adjustment. I didn't have to say, oh, it's Night of the Living Dead, and this would have scared people then. It was hitting me now,
Still feels fresh, right?
Oh, something so timeless with it.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. And the cinematography, my favorite scene for some reason, maybe because I don't know much about manga. When I was in college, I had a Japanese friend who took me up to his dorm after class and he was showing me the book and I was like, whoa, it opens the other way? That is so weird. And he was telling me about it.
The book's broken.
I'm trying to think, is the Criterion, does it also open a different way because of that? Is it an ode to that? I was wondering if it opens on the other side. It felt like it did.
I've never noticed.
No, I think it sort of folds out because you got the...
No, I mean, like when you pull the movies out, they usually come out the right. I think it maybe came out the left.
Huh.
I don't know. I didn't know if that was
it does have a weird... Mine's got like a weird... It's actually a really fiddly way of trying to get the disc out the box. You've got
it's a nightmare.
And push and...
I have to say, like, I'll first say the cinematography, the moment that got me is that snow scene. It looks so beautiful and it looks like you're in a comic book, you know? And it's just something about how dark it is. And it's like, man, these shots are not like, this isn't some like low, like non-thought out thing,
No.
It's so beautiful. You don't get that in Shogun Assassin much, maybe because they kind of trimmed a lot of those.
And I'm sure they've possibly even punched in slightly as well for some of the shots.
Okay.
But, I think once you kind of see it in its original form, it's absolutely beautiful.
I'll say on that Criterion though, whenever I first opened up the Criterion Bruce Lee box set, I I did not like that packaging, and I just felt like that inside felt horrible. I was like, I don't want this to be the box set. I put them into like a little folder thing because I didn't want to be taking that out that way.
Feels too flimsy, right?
Yeah, it's weird for how nice that Criterion box set is with all the little gadgets and the little hidden scroll and everything, which surprisingly wasn't hidden in mine. I think they, but I just felt that plastic kind of brought the set down a little bit. Felt cheap.
Yeah, a little bit. I would have preferred if they only did one set. Like the Zatoichi box set is my favorite Criterion release in terms of that's the one that feels the most like a quality product to me, and it's got a sort of disc envelopes which are kind of quite similar to the way that Shawscope are, but they're individual, so you get a page for each disc, and it kind of feels a bit more secure. And there's a really nice book that comes with it, and still fits on the shelf. And it's the one that's
kind of like Game of Clones a little bit, how it had the
similar sort of vibe. Yeah, in fact, exactly. Actually, yeah, completely like that. I think I really like that that style. I wish that Criterion would use it more, but they seem to jump around a whole lot with their design. And I ended up getting rid of my Godzilla set because it was just too oversized, and my cat was making it a mission to destroy it.
You know their worst set so far? That fucking one car Y set.
Oh yeah.
That's a bitch to get into. It's like cracking a fucking safe. It folds out and you make fucking origami out of it when you're trying to pull it out. It's mental. Yeah, I just want to watch a fucking film.
Oh yeah, it's
sorry
weird.
for the bad language, everyone.
No, I love Shawscope. I love that set, but sometimes I just want to get the movie out. It's weird, but in a way, it makes you kind of honor it. It feels like you're pulling a sword out of a scabbard.
Yes.
So it's beautiful in that moment, but sometimes, and I remember Dragon, they came out with, I think it was a bootleg version, it looked like Shawscope, and you could just get to, it was like someone made it to sell on a Etsy, and Dragon was like, get that out of here. That's weird. Like, you just would keep the Shawscope, and I was like, he's right.
That format. Yeah,
I do like the format. It's just, maybe because I'm honoring it too. It's like, it feels like you want to just leave it in there. It's weird to take it out. That'd be almost one I'd like to rip just to watch them. And you want to keep that because I have them up really displayed too.
Yeah.
So to get it out, it's real high up and it's like, but that is a killer set. Before I forget, so the names that you just said, what is it? Zatoichi? Zatoichi. That's a Kurosawa movie?
No. Okay. No, Zatoichi's had multiple different directors. That's the main actor from Lone Wolf and Cub. That's his younger brother. His younger brother, Shintaro Katsu.
There's only two brothers, though, right?
Yeah.
He's the one from Han Solo or whatever the other one. What's it called? Han?
From Hanzo. Hanzo the Razor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Han Solo the Razor.
And every so often you'll see, if you've seen the Jackie Chan movie Half a Loaf of Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the opening titles,
I don't love that one. Yeah.
I'm really not a fan. But in the opening credits for that, he does this weird blind beggar guy character, right? That's him doing an impression of Zatoichi. That's him doing an impression of Shintaro Katsu as Zatoichi. Mm-hmm. And lots of people have at various points in movies done impressions of Zatoichi because it's a very fun character to channel, right? Because his movements as that character are really, really good, right?
Okay.
And the only guy who really had it down, really, really had it down, is his older brother. So there's various points in some of his own Wicked Priest movies when Wakayama will do an impression, and it's usually always masseuses were often blind, right? It was a way for blind people to make money. So anytime that you see these guys in movies, they were quite often, masseurs were always blind. And in Zatoichi's case, he's blind, but incredibly, he's basically a daredevil with a sword, right? So he can sense exactly how many people are around him. He'll take them down with one hit. He can cut a candle in half and catch the end of the candle before it falls to the ground on the end of his sword. And he always can hear dice. So he's an amazing gambler, so he can always win it because he can hear the
Avengers
dice roll.
Comes to mind. You could see the influence on Guak
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
They started way earlier as well. Zatoichi movie started early 60s.
Well, that's why I asked, because the two names, as someone who doesn't know Japanese, I hear the most is Kurosawa, of course, and Zatoichi. Those are the two ones as someone who's excited. I'm excited to dive in, but as those are the ones you hear.
Okay. Well, Zatoichi character name and Kurosawa are director.
The director. So, that's why I thought maybe he directed that. But I know he did Seven Samurai, though, right?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah. And Zatoichi. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, he did kind of inadvertently did inspire Kenji Mizumi, because I think there's a sequence in, it's not Seven Samurai, it's one of the other ones that were turned into Western. So it's either Yojimbo or Sanjuro. I think it's Yojimbo. But there was basically a bit of a mistake with one of the blood packs that they'd set up for an actor who was going to get slashed, and where it should have just been a quite low-key line, it
Mhm.
exploded out much more impactful than they expected, and they just ended up leaving it in the movie.
And it's
That
one of the
kind
best sword
directly
slashes of all
inspired
time.
Kenji Mizumi to then go, like, I want to do that all the time. So
It's
he then
incredible.
basically kind of took that and ran with it. So kind of Kurosawa was like the godfather of those sorts of things. And there was definitely, I mean, Kurosawa is the mainstay, certainly the most celebrated.
Mhm.
But there's a bunch of other directors, once you start getting into that type of cinema, that did work that was every bit as good, if and in some cases maybe arguably slightly better.
You
Like I think
often mention that guy Kenji or something. I've heard you say Ken. I thought there was one time you say I want to get you someday into these 6 or 7 movies from something Kenji or Kenshi is last.
that's later. That's Kenji.
Okay.
That's the kind of action choreographer.
Oh, Tanigaki?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who
But is that Japanese cinema?
Yeah, he
Okay.
did the Rurouni Kenshin movies, but they're a lot later. There's also a manga adaptation, but they're like fairly recent films.
Yeah.
And Kenji's an interesting case study because like both Kenji and Kensuke Sonomura, who's the choreographer who worked on the Baby Assassins movies, who just directed Ghost Killer, that's just about to come out on physical media later this year. They both learned at the Yosaki Karate Action School. So they were basically trained in a very Hong Kong style of choreography. And kind of Japanese action cinema traditionally had a lot less kind of kinetic action sequences than Hong Kong cinema. So Hong Kong very heavily inspired by Japanese cinema in terms of cinematography, with set design, sometimes with storylines, but not so much in the action. Hong Kong was kind of doing its own thing with the action because they had such a wealth of martial arts to draw from.
I could feel that.
But
I
then
noticed.
it fed back into Japan. So like actors like Yosaki Kurata came over and worked in the Hong Kong system and then took it back to Japan when Japan didn't really have a huge amount of action cinema going on at that period.
Yeah.
So by the time you get into the late 70s, early 80s, Japanese cinema had kind of moved into different areas. It was kind of discovering kind of home video, and it was starting to kind of make an awful lot of like low budget, straight to video action movies that were more sort of like, I guess, gunplay, explosions, kind of response to what was going on in America at the time. But the Yosaki Karata bringing back the Hong Kong techniques over the course of the 90s and into the noughties and up to now, you saw this rise in a more dynamic, more explosive choreography that was more familiar to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And that's what Kenji's sort of been very much at the forefront of. Because he's kind of been trained in that style.
His new film's just been announced for TIFF this year.
Yes, that's furious.
Everyone is very excited.
Yes, they are.
Because it's got a hell of a cast, and it's got Kensuke Sonomura as the action director. So.
Yeah,
Well, this
Kenji
wouldn't
and
be
Kensuke.
this wouldn't be a critique, but I feel because I'm so I know the Hong Kong movies and, like you said, the style of it. Sometimes I was craving a little more back and forth because
You mean in the fights?
Yeah, because he's going to survive because there's 6 of the movie. So it's not that. It's just that, it's just sometimes maybe that's the nature of the samurai sword and stuff. It's just there's not a lot of clashes where it's like there's just not a lot of back and forth. It's kind of like,
he's a superhero. So he's basically he's essentially invincible. You will get more of that in other series. So there's certainly other series where they'll meet somebody who's basically their match.
Yeah, that's what I kind of craved in this, because when he got to his match in this, because even John Wick is a superhero, but he has moments, he's like down and loses a gun or whatever, I think, right?
Yeah.
But
John Wick is battered.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So but it worked. It's just, I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it's the Monks of Death, possibly, or just when you're being told that they're so matched. So well, but it doesn't always translate. He still just like completely kills them so fast.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, one of them managed to disarm him briefly. So there was that.
Yes,
so
that's when I saw his fist. When he did his fist, he was kind of holding them odd. It was like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
It's almost like Wing Chun, almost like kind of close to the body kind of fist.
But the fist, like like Bruce Lee would talk about how you really have to like make the fist this compact. His were just kind of like, man, and then he kind of did a somersault and got his sword. I was like, I wish I could have seen him. But in judo, you wouldn't be doing that like crazy fist. So maybe that's more his forte. Like. Yeah, it's interesting. Man, I was so impressed with this. I have to say, like, I'm in, guys. Like, I'm really in on this Japanese.
Yeah, we can open the door for Japanese.
I'm so glad you found this. I hope you make your way to Zatoichi. I'll be honest, I own the Criterion set, and I've only watched 2 of them.
okay.
I have not watched the rest,
So
and
what did I invent?
I've owned it for since it came out. Big shout out to Flip Otaku. He actually bought me that set, which is like
nice.
unbelievable. So kind of him. But yeah, I'm very lucky to have that set. But I've only watched 2 of them. I need to go back.
Did it grab you or no?
Yeah. Oh no, I loved them. I loved them. It's just I have so many films to get through.
Well, when you said the Shinobi one, I thought maybe this was the same thing. It didn't like.
No, Zatoichi really worked for me. But to be honest, I watched the Takeshi Kitano or Beat Takeshi version first, which is kind of 2013, 2000.
No,
Early 2000s.
Yeah, it's like 2003 or something, 2002,
something like that. Yeah, and that's a great film. It's got such a wonderful vein of kind of sense of humor in it. But then again, Zatoichi's a funny character. He's got like a bit of a wit to him, and it's very, very enjoyable. And I hope we can. Whether we get to the early ones, I really want to see Zatoichi versus One-Armed Swordsman. That's the one that really excites me more than anything, because I've seen the final fight. It's incredible. Yeah. So really excited to see that one. But yeah, I love Japanese cinema. I've been diving in a little bit more. I will admit, I recently picked up Black Tight Killers, which I absolutely love from Radiant. I had a blast with that film. It's just so much fun. But I think Japanese cinema is something I haven't explored fully, but I'm very in on it as well. I'm very, very excited.
The more time that I spend with it, the more that I kind of start coming to the conclusion that it's maybe the absolute pinnacle.
Really?
I think it's the source that everything else kind of draws from, and I think it took me quite a long time to get there. And I remember way back, 20 years ago, I had a friend who discovered Zatoichi and those movies really early on and was trying to sell me on them back then. And at that point, I was only had love for Shaw Brothers, and so I was just like, he looking at this guy who was like overweight and he's blind and he's overweight and none of it, and he's a masseur. None of this makes any sense to me. So I was really
technically I'm blind and overweight.
It took me years to come to them, and I had to kind of go back to my friend and be like, you were so far ahead of me, man. You were like 10, because he found them probably 10 years before I started getting into them. And I should have listened to him back then and sort of embraced it back then. But it took me a long time to.
Well, when did you because you said your father showed you that introduction?
He got me into Kurosawa. I was a bit more hesitant to get into the other stuff. So that's probably over the last, I'd say probably starting about 10 years ago and then going on from there. And I can't remember exactly what it was that kind of got me going down that rabbit hole. But I think it was probably revisiting the Kurosawa movies again and then started spinning off from there. And I think there's a couple of actors who really kind of served as a gateway. I found an actor who just had a tiny part in a Kurosawa movie called Tatsuya Nakadai, sorry. And he's the guy, Shaun, you've seen Yojimbo.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy with the gun, basically. He's the one guy who's got the gun.
I know him well.
In a town with everyone has swords, he's the one guy with the gun. And he's in this movie called Harakiri, or Seppuku, it's its Japanese title. And that movie is so incredibly good, gut-wrenchingly good.
I've never seen that film. I know of it, and I've never seen it.
That rips your heart out and stomps your heart to pieces.
I need to see it.
It's not the most action-packed movie, but it's the most heartbreaking movie that you've ever seen. And
I love a heartbreak.
His part in it is it's incredible. But that's an entirely different director. But that was my first experience finding him. Then I spun off into other movies that he'd done and found this incredible movie called Sword of Doom.
I've heard of that.
Is someone being so corrupted by the idea of learning the ultimate swordplay. Sorry, my cat's going mental in the background. Because my cat's a huge Japanese cinema fan. So he's
saying yes after each one.
Big Sword of Doom fan.
Testify.
Sword of Doom is his jam.
Sword of Doom, this guy basically loses his mind. He becomes so unhinged at the idea of becoming the ultimate swordsman. And so he has this sort of descent into madness.
It may be my favorite one, my favorite Japanese film so far. I love Sword of Doom. I love it.
You find out.
Should we add this to the list now for later on?
We should.
It's a good one to watch. The ending of that film is genuinely one of my favorite endings of all time.
Also, Shaun, without wanting to blow your mind, but I'm going to blow your mind slightly. That movie is a remake. And it's a remake of a movie starring Raizo Ishikawa from Shinobi no Mono. He played that character first, and he played it in 3 movies.
Oh, wow.
Examine the same characters. So the movie's almost a beat for beat remake when you watch Sword of Fate.
Oh, I did not know
And
that.
his version's like very different because he's a very different actor. And he could do like Tetsuya Nakadai was a much more like emotionally charged actor. So when he's going crazy, he's really crazy. Yeah. Raizo Ishikawa is a lot more like sedentary through a lot of his performances. He's a lot cooler, like in a sort of Steve McQueen way.
Oh, got you.
He says less and he moves less, but but he still holds your attention on screen. And I really like his versions. Like it's like Satan's Sword, and there's 3 of them.
Interesting.
And I've been trying to. Hopefully somebody will release these on Blu-ray at some point because we are starting to get more of Raizo's movies coming out. But yeah, Jason, you've got a wonderful, wonderful world ahead of you.
I'm so excited.
Well, and you know what else I have to say really stuck out to me on this is I think, Shaun, you may have heard me say this, but Dragon definitely knows Conan the Barbarian is my favorite movie by far.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I cry just telling you that I love it. I get teary-eyed. I mean, I just can't even tell you. The thing about it is, though, there's nothing in that really reminds me of Shaw Brothers or anything like that for some reason. But Dragon's pulling something
Keep talking. I'm going to pull something up.
I did know that they brought in a Japanese master to teach Arnold Schwarzenegger and all of them how to use the sword. And he's in the movie. He's like one of this, like when they take him to the east to learn the sword, he's the one guy that kicks a guy in the groin. As I watched this, I was like, man, this has so much influence on Conan the Barbarian. So many of the scenes, even the sand at the end, and I can see Dragon ready to drop a bomb on me. But and the aesthetic and the outfits and so many different things, there's so much Japanese influence on Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
This is there's a great interview. I'm holding up, guys. I'm holding up the spin-off from Eastern Heroes magazine called Film Frenzy, and we did a Shogun Assassin special a couple of episodes ago.
Oh, killer! And
in the course of putting the magazine together, the guys were able to get interviews with Gibran Evans, who does the voice of Daigoro, and with his dad, with Jim Evans, who did the original poster. So I'm going to read you a tiny little bit from the end of Jim Evans's interview. And it's just literally in his final little thought right at the end of the interview. And they asked Jim if there's anything else he wanted to add. And he said, yeah, here's my Film Frenzy exclusive. I do not believe has been revealed before concerning Shogun Assassin. At the time I was working on the movie, I was also working on a bodybuilding poster with David Weissman that involved Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I'd also met while working on a documentary with him. Shogun Assassin was almost done, and Arnold had heard about it. He'd just gotten the job to play Conan the Barbarian that also included a surfing friend of mine, Jerry Lopez. Arnold asked if he could get to see a rough cut of Shogun to get some ideas for how to handle a big sword properly and add some cool Asian action to his approach. A screening was set up and we all attended with Arnold. After the screening, Arnold was effusive with praise for what he'd seen. When leaving the screening, Arnold, myself, and Gibran climbed into the elevator. Gibran looked up at Arnold and said hi, and Arnold looked down, pressed his hand onto Gibran's head and said, "Oh, so you're Daigoro." So
wow, what
Arnold
a great story.
Oh,
pretty
man,
cool, huh? So Arnie was there
it.
before the movie came out, so he was one of the first ones to see the rough cut of Shogun Assassin.
That's a great little tidbit, right?
Pretty
one
cool,
of the first people in the US to see Shogun Assassin was Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is a crazy little tidbit. Yeah,
that's my favorite issue that I've contributed to so far. Of anything.
Wow.
Wait, and so you have like a spread in there too, articles?
Yeah, I did a breakdown of like Shogun Assassin, Lone Wolf and Cub on DVD.
Oh, I have to get
Blu-ray.
that now.
Is that still available?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet! I might actually pick that up.
Oh, I'm so happy you read that. That was great. I mean, because it really just solidified what I was seeing in this, because Arnold does that famous like figure eight thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you call it, but a figure eight move in there.
Yeah.
And just the parallels and the sometimes blatant shots and everything,
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Conan as well, Shaun? That movie?
Do you know what? I need to revisit it. It's been a long time, and for some reason, I just didn't pick up the 4K. I don't know why. I mean, I'm really into the idea of revisiting it, and I just didn't pick up the 4K.
Well, I guess
so
back in the day when you saw it, were you digging it?
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, I was a massive Conan fan. My dad was actually before the separation of my parents. My dad was a massive Arnold fan, huge, and he raised me on like Commando and Predator and Conan, and I watched a whole bunch of them at a young age. And then when he unfortunately left, my mum kind of took over and kind of took the baton that my father left behind, and she was like, okay, this son likes Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to fucking hit him with a ton of... And she brought in Terminator 2.
Oh, this sounds like heaven.
There's been like, this Arnold kind of journey in my early years that just, it's kind of been like a thread throughout my family. My brother, we used to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger films. And just always a presence, and Conan was a huge one. I had a Commando poster on my wall growing up.
Oh, that's great. I had well, and that's the other thing. But you know what else the parallel is, Dragon, is what I love about Conan the Barbarian is it's dead serious. It's so serious. I mean, it has maybe a funny or two moments, but there's something about when you sell it that way, you know, like when it just, because a lot of those movies, even like Beastmaster, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek moments, you know, just to keep it lighthearted. When it's that gravitas, it pulls you in and it gets your heartstrings, and that's what I was feeling in this. That's what I mean.
So great that you felt that.
It's kind of why I have such a big problem with the way that the comic book movies, like, because I grew up loving comic books, and why I kind of feel that the last sort of like maybe 5 or 7 years of kind of comic book movies that have been coming out of Marvel and DC have been losing me, because everything's played as a joke.
Yes,
and it's like if you guys don't take this seriously, how is the audience expected to? And there was like, go back to Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and there was jokes in those movies, but the world is presented and played deadly straight and deadly serious, and it's all the much better.
Couldn't agree more.
It feels like there's no stakes or no kind of real weight to anything that's been coming out of Marvel in the last sort of 4 or 5 years.
That's why I would say this year's been a good year for Marvel. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four both have their jokes, but they're also serious and they know the weight of the world. So again, I'm not a huge MCU celebrator. I watch it, I love it, but I don't go to bat for it. But I must admit, this year's been a good year.
Well, Dragon, you bringing that up, Batman Begins is my favorite superhero movie of all time.
Great, great choice.
Here we go with that samurai element too. You know what I mean?
It's everywhere.
Ninjas in there. Yeah. So I have to ask you actually, but sorry to interrupt.
No,
I just remembered something about Shogun Assassin in 2000. I'm gonna say 18. Justin Lin, one of the directors of the more popular Fast and Furious films, announced he was going to remake Lone Wolf and Cub as a Hollywood film.
Yeah, that's the second incarnation. Darren Aronofsky was the first one who said he was going to.
Really? Yeah. Really? Now,
I think that's a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea.
I don't want to see it happen. I think the only thing that might...
It better not be The Rock either. I
think if we're ever going to see it happen, it might be after, like, supposedly, like, the director of the John Wick movies, Chad Stahelski, is currently working on Highlander. But with Henry Cavill. But once he's finished that, if he doesn't get sidetracked into doing John Wick 5, which is possible, the other project he was supposed to be attached to was a live-action version of Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, yeah.
Which was an American-made computer game, but that was so reverential of Kurosawa's movies and of Japanese culture that the Japanese embraced that game so much. They celebrated it. I think the guys who made the game were given, like, honorary... like almost the equivalent of giving the key to a city, but they were given almost like honorary something, honorary stewardship of the island of Tsushima. And so I think like the Japanese absolutely loved it. So they've said that when they do the live action movie, it's all going to be in Japanese with a Japanese cast. So it's just an American made movie that's basically
how wonderful.
Japanese, right?
That's respect right there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, here's a question for you. What do you think of The Last Samurai?
It's all right, actually. I don't mind it.
I love that movie. And I'm sure we all teared up at that scene when the Gatling gun came out. That was
weep like a baby.
I love like Ken Watanabe. It's like one of my favorite contemporary Japanese actors.
I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday about him. Quick question, whether maybe one of you can answer. Is his first name Ken, or is it like Kenji or Kensuke? Is it actually
I wouldn't
Ken?
know.
Because he's not American born, right? He's Japanese born.
No.
I just wondered whether his full name was like Kenji something or Kensuke or countless others. But we were just like, Ken is a very odd name. So not odd name, but like to be a Japanese guy to get birth. So I just wondered whether it was a longer version. I should have just.
I guess the reason I asked that is like if you're at a bar and you're talking about it, you could laugh saying, "Of course, like The Last Samurai is Tom Cruise and it's an American movie." But when you're actually watching it, I actually think
it is, because I remember like it's technically his surname.
Right.
He just switches it around for when he's making American movies. So technically his first name is Watanabe. He's Watanabe Ken.
Right. Is Ken a common last name?
Not that I knew of.
No, it must be something, right? I'm sorry. I know I'm just distracting us here. I just had a conversation with my buddy yesterday about it.
I love how they, even though they wrote it on the screen as, how do you say, Ojami Titu, or his name?
Ogami Ito.
Yeah.
And of course they say it reverse in the movie, but the different ways they would say that name, I loved hearing it. When the Supreme Ninja, like they would sometime would accent the other name, like Dito, and like, and that's the other thing. When you hear, I'm not used to hearing Japanese language, that it's so powerful. And
oh yeah,
it's like
got some really oomph in that language.
Man, it is, because that's the other thing. Shogun Assassin, they all have these voices. Sandra Bernhard does the voice, which I thought you were joking when you typed that. But to switch all their voices to the women to their actual Japanese voices, it's like, I'd say it's almost one step below German when you hear it's kind of like, even if you don't know what they're saying, it's intimidating almost.
Powerful
language. Yeah. Knock you down.
Yeah, for sure, there's an intensity to it. And I think also like connected into how the choreography works. And there's something that, let's once again give a shout out to Shaun's incredible interview that you did with God, my brain's not working at all today.
Eric Jacobus.
Thank you. Yes, because he spoke about basically how language had informed choreography.
Yes,
his understanding the difference between a Hong Kong punch and a Japanese punch and a US punch. Right.
Yeah,
I think you kind of see it particularly through the swordplay as well, and there's a sort of, you don't break into the middle of a sentence when you're speaking to somebody in Japanese, where in Hong Kong there is the conversations going from both sides, almost over each other at the same time, and you see it through the choreography as well. So I think there's a finality to the way that to the way of all the swordplay goes that seems very, very inherently Japanese. But
isn't that great?
Pretty damn cool. Yeah,
I love that. I love it.
On sound effects, quick add-on at the end here. Like as you go to Bruceploitation, I mean, in those, not even just Bruceploitation, a lot of those 70s ones, even when they miss, it's like a hit noise. It's like boom, like sometimes so loud. Especially at the end, every little nuance has a noise to it. Now, when you watch like that, what's it called? I think Fists of Fire, that Shaw Brothers documentary where it shows how they do the sound effects. Yeah. That's kind of the period where they'd let like some hits on screen not have a sound effect, right? And we know that. Watching this, I can't believe how muted the Shogun Assassin is. That has it because it's a 1980. There's like no sound at all. Them running in water, them running on the ground, and then all you get is the whoosh.
Even the music drops out as well.
I thought I hit mute or something.
Yeah.
I guess it's more a later period thing where they wanted to have every leaf blown and every little step, because in Hong Kong movies you hear the when they're walking.
Exactly. I think it adds gravitas to the violence, if you will. There's like a weight to the importance of the violence in Shogun local films. I love it. Oh,
it's like a silent film, and you get that hit, and it's, man, I'm blown away, guys.
It's a special film.
It feel like Dragon posted once this book. It was a Japanese book. I think it's more like the hard-boiled type of movie, or more like Yakuza.
Well, it's got a mix, like a lot of sort of Japanese Yakuza movies in it, but it does have some of the swordplay stuff in it as well.
And I love books on the movies, even if I'm like, it's kind of like when you listen to podcasts of when you're maybe not going to see. I love seeing it and reading about them. Now I can't wait. I want to like get that book soon, because it feels like there's this whole world, and I feel like you guys feel this way too. When we do the interventions, you want to pick ones that, because it's not always like hundreds out now. There's just really high points. But I could just know there's so many good Japanese, especially when you're calling it the pinnacle, which we might not have time today to like dive into. I'd love to hear, like, I want you to expound in future episodes, like what takes it above, let's say, Lau Kar-Leung, because to hear you say that's a lot of power.
And it just feels like the source for a lot of this sort of stuff, and in terms of like, certainly in terms of each one has its own particular flavor, and I think I don't mean, that statement's not designed to diminish Hong Kong cinema or say that necessarily kind of one's inherently better than the other. There's a very different vibe, but it's more just kind of like the place that I feel has kind of had the biggest impact on some of the other types of cinema that I really love. Like, I think I'm getting more and more into Westerns the older that I get, and starting to understand how you just wouldn't have the spaghetti Westerns if Kurosawa hadn't done what he did first. And that went back and forth. Like, the Japanese would sometimes do their own version, like the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
and Seven Samurai are kind of, there's a lot of parallels between the two, but then they would definitely for the Dollars trilogy, they're almost straight remakes of Sanjuro and Yojimbo, and I think they've always fed into each other, and the flavor that Hong Kong adds to it is very different and very special, and I love that a lot. But I think at a time, particularly when they were making movies always painting the Japanese as a villain, at that same exact time, they were also drawing huge amounts of influence from Japanese cinema. So I think they were painting the Japanese as the villains because that's what they would get a response from the audience.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
actual filmmakers themselves were really heavily inspired.
Yeah,
so
really respected in reality. Yeah,
completely. And like One Armed Swordsman is kind of like a response to a Japanese series that name escapes me just now, where the main character loses one arm and one eye. So it's like it's slightly more extreme, but then becomes an incredible swordsman. There's like a kind of female blind swordswoman that's almost like a female version of Zatoichi. And there's a bunch
that came
of
later,
movies.
right? It was just called Ichi. Was that
no,
one just called Ichi?
that's way later.
Oh, okay.
There was like around the same sort of time that Zatoichi was happening. There was a series called Crimson Bat. There's like 6 of those movies, and she was like a kind of blind swordswoman.
Is that Zatoichi exploitation then, or is it just you know what I mean? You know, is it?
No, I love that. Sounds exciting.
Right, because there's one-armed swordsman exploitation, right? Because there's one that's like one-armed swordsman versus one-armed swordsman, and it's David Chang versus Wang Yu, and it's not a Shaw Brothers film. But there's lots of like exploitation kind of films around one-armed swordsman, and I get a feeling Zatoichi's kind of the one-armed swordsman of Japan, in that lots of people borrowed from it and kind of went, I'm going to make this type of film, but with a blind swordsman, you know, a little bit, maybe.
A little bit. I mean, they definitely, I'd say that they were just kind of definitely aware, and they would tip their hat to each other. And the brothers were, I think there was a lot of healthy competition between the two brothers.
Great. Yeah.
Although they worked together quite a bit, and so like obviously like Shintaro Katsu, the brother, produced these movies, and it was his film company that was making them. I did that because he wanted to have more control than he was getting when he was making the Zatoichi movies.
Got you.
So he kind of wanted to be able to sort of really be the complete master of the project. But the amount of times that they would riff or play off to each other. There's another series that Radiance put out called the Bounty Hunter trilogy. This also stars the main actor from Shogun Assassin from Cub, and it slightly predates it came before the Baby Cart films did, and it's almost a direct Japanese response to James Bond. So he's like this spy who's also a doctor, who's also like an expert marksman, who's also really good with a sword, and
lots of gadgets
Yeah, quite often gadgets, crazy little kind of weird contraption guns that they make. And he has the girl who plays the prostitute in at the hot springs that he goes to. She's crops up in a couple of those those movies too. And again, had its own spin-off TV series that ran for quite a long time. He was in a really long-running spin-off show called Mute Samurai, where he's a samurai who can't speak. That's also really good, and that ran for 2 seasons or something.
Well, that's what I have to ask you, Dragon. As you guys talk about this, we're talking about box sets. I'm holding a box set that has 6 movies. Are they way more into sequels than the Hong Kong movies? Because, the Venoms, of course, did dozens of movies, but they weren't really sequels.
Yeah, it wasn't sequels.
This is like, you're talking about box sets, and this series went on for all this. 6 movies in a straightaway. I think
the brothers especially. The brothers, I can't, there's a couple of other, Dai was the studio behind Zatoichi, and Dai was very invested in basically trying to kind of capitalize on what stories were working. And across the way at Toho, the other big massive rival for Dai at the time, Toho were doing Godzilla, and Godzilla ran. Godzilla's still running now, right? They're still making Godzilla movies. But they had 2 big stars at Dai. One was Shintaro Katsu, one was the guy who was Zatoichi. The other one was Raizo Ishikawa, who was in the Shinobi no Mono series. And Raizo Ishikawa, at the same time as he was doing the Shinobi no Mono series, he was doing another series called The Sleepy Eyes of Death, to give it its translated English title. The Japanese title, I can't remember at the moment. But there's 15, I think, of those movies. He stars in the first 12, and then he died, and they kept on going. They made 3 more after he died. Same with Shinobi no Mono. He died after film 8, and then they made number 9, doesn't have him in it. But if something was working, they would keep it going. But in a way that, even though they're a little bit rinse and repeaty, that becomes there's a bit of a formula to what they're doing. They always manage to kind of find ways to keep it inventive and keep it fresh. And in the case of Zatoichi, it was pulling in other franchises. So that's why they pulled in Jimmy Wang Yu. Jimmy Wang Yu always had his finger on the pulse. Yeah,
does this hold the does this hold the quality through this box set? I read a little bit. They said the last two though maybe aren't as good as the first four.
I really enjoy them. I just say they just become a bit more James Bondy, a bit more gimmicky in the sense of the cart can do more stuff. But you're like, how much is packed into this cart? How many hidden weapons? Like,
it's one step away from like getting rockets and just firing off into the air and taking in with it. Yeah. Speaking of sequels, actually, for those that don't know, there is a Shogun Assassin 2. For those that don't know, in the UK, speaking of Vipco, the company that released Shogun Assassin in the UK, they released a sequel after the popularity of Shogun Assassin, and it's called Shogun Assassin 2 Lightning Swords of Death, I believe.
I've heard of that.
It is an edited version of the next two films.
Yeah.
Spliced together.
Oh man, this sounds amazing.
You can't find it now, I don't think.
And it's not as good, sadly. It doesn't have the kids' voiceover, so it doesn't have Daigoro, which is a big part of why that Shogun Assassin
they
cut
dropped
works.
the ball there.
Yeah, it's not nearly as good. And in fact, it was kind of, if I remember correctly, it was kind of shunned at the time as being kind of a quick cash grab.
Not the same director, not the American director. It's a UK release.
Yeah,
like
UK
project.
They just cobbled it together.
Who was behind it? But it's not well done at all.
Neither. I think it was labeled
new score.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bullshit release, if I'm honest. It does exist, and you probably can pick up the old. I think
probably on
DVD.
YouTube. I'm guessing. I'm sure
it might even be on YouTube. Yeah, but it might be worth giving a watch if you're interested. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen Shogun Assassin 2 in decades.
Well, Dragon, do you want to take us home on this?
Yeah, I mean, this has been another long one, but I think well worth it because technically
I want to ask you guys
to go through.
I have one more question. Question. The difference of the scores, when you said the score there, I really dug the music in Shogun Assassin, but I thought when it was at the final Monks of Death, I know it's 1980 coming off disco. It was almost like a little too disco-y for that scene.
A little too funky for you?
Yeah.
A little too funky.
I mean, because once it got to the original, it's like it's silent. Of course, it's different. I love the score in the originals. I thought that was,
it's haunting at times.
Oh, it's beautiful. Perfect. And I really did like it in Shogun Assassin because it gave that exploitation vibe. But just when that kid shows up and he points, and it's almost like Saturday Night Fever's coming in. But it's like, I dug it. I just felt at that moment it was a little dated slightly.
Yeah. You can tell by the way he swords his swords. He's a woman man. No time to talk. There you go.
That's awesome. You guys dig the funk, that
Completely.
Style, that
music? And if we ever get to Hands of the Razor, it's even more funktastic.
Yeah.
But its actual legit original score is super funky.
Hanzo's actually, if you have HBO Max, it's on HBO Max now.
Really?
Both Hanzo films, because it has a deal with Criterion, and I think they have the Hanzo films, maybe, or Janus Films, maybe, has Hanzo. I don't know. I don't know the logistics, but I know they were on HBO Max for a time.
Yeah, Eureka put them out on DVD here, and I think the sort of the political climate has changed to a point where it'd be difficult to release them on Blu-ray at the moment, I think, because they're very PC in every way, shape, or form, but are so magnificant. One thing before I forget, before we go too far off, that there's another nice little tribute in recent years to that technique that leaves the breath whistling through the neck, and it's at the end of the Shadow Strays.
It is,
but which kind of came out last year.
Yeah.
From a director whose work we'll definitely be getting to in due course at some point.
Oh, that's on our list. I know of the interventions. That's on the.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Baby Assassins 3.
And so you'll connect when by the time we get to that. I mean, that's technically going to be when we step over to Indonesia and we get a chance to look at one of Timoteo Hanto's movies. But he's definitely a huge fan of this series, and everybody should be, because they're absolutely monumental. But guys, this was an incredible, amazingly fun episode for me to dive into.
Loved it.
We jumped around a lot, and knowing that we've opened the door to many, many more Japanese movies makes me incredibly happy.
Should be a fun journey. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
I'm on it. I'm excited. I'm going to need some pointers. Like when we talk later, I want to know what should be. I'm going to get through this set, and then I'll save some that we will be doing for the podcast. But I just want to dive in and get. I know they're going to be different. I know it might not always have this exact, level of violence.
I'll keep you right. I can know the sort of stuff. Don't worry.
He'll keep us on track. But I'd love to hear which one of the entire series is your favorite, Jason. I'd love to hear which. Yeah, because quite frankly, if you tell me your favorite, I'd love to revisit that one and just see how good it is.
Yeah, I will say out of these two, obviously the second one just feels like almost Shogun Assassin again because they used the majority of that.
Yeah.
The first one, there was just so many great things. I'm going to try to pull it back. We'll be going another hour.
Yeah, exactly. I need to go. I'm really late.
Guys, I had a blast. It was
Absolutely.
a great time.
Same here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Do the wonderfully glorious thing. Choose to walk the path to hell and leave us a 5-star review, because that's the way to do it.
Yep.
And come back next month for another absolute classic that we have lined up to get into next time we all get together. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys later.
See ya.